Hey guys, this is Bill Combs.
And Jeff Newton.
And this is the Flashbang Creative Podcast.
Hey everybody, we are back with episode 19. I just had to fake play our intro music in my head so I could get jacked up and ready to roll for this episode and pretend like it was in the background here. But welcome back. Hope you really enjoyed our kind of impromptu sit down last episode to think out the continuity and membership a little bit more thoroughly. If you haven't listened to that episode, I would strongly encourage you to pause this one and flip back to episode 18 and listen to that one through and take notes. But today we're going to move forward and hit on a new topic. The topic for today's episode is going to be the recipe for success minus the secret sauce. But before we dive into that, Bill is going to open us up with some mail call content from feedback that we've gotten over the last 2 weeks.
Yes, mail call. So we've been getting a lot of emails, and I've taken a few calls on the workshop idea we covered in the past, a couple episodes ago. And just to give you a little synopsis of what that is we were kind of encouraging you guys to put together some free workshops where you could bring in former students or even new prospects into a workshop and teach them how to sight in a rifle, how to sight in a scope, how to mount a scope, proper, carry positions or equipment, holsters, belts, whatever. Get them in a class, teach them about the gear, because so often courses are more about the shooting fundamentals, which is, that's very important. But less to do with the gear and gadgets that make it easier to, always carry. So anyways, another thing that we'd kind of talk through with some customers and then even some prospective customers was have a range day. What better time to get somebody into one of your future courses than out on the range? So instead of a workshop, if you have access to a range or can even, rent out the range, do so. Even if that takes a little bit of hit to your pocketbook, do so, and get them out on the range, critique them, just shooting with the boys or girls, and no pressure, no court or no classroom environment. You're just shooting, but also be coaching them. And maybe you go up to Charlie, and Charlie could definitely benefit from your next upcoming course. Just based off of his interests and skill sets. But maybe Doug, one lane down from Charlie, he's good to go, but maybe you've got a course coming up in a few months that he could really benefit, or maybe he's just really interested in that discipline, or use this opportunity to craft a new course. Say, hey guys, what would you think if I put together a course on this? And what better time to get them to commit their dollars than when they're experiencing that big dopamine dump that Jeff talked about, I think, last episode. So those are some things that I would do. I would do that stuff regularly. By now, if you haven't created your email list based off of prior students, then you're wrong. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a dick. But
I do.
Yeah,
you're wrong. We're not going to let you listen anymore. Go do it.
Yeah, you're missing out, man. You need to get your email list together, because that's the biggest bang for the buck deal you have in your possession. That is past students that are, they know you, they trust you, so you're vetted. So at any rate, these are the things I'd do. I'd reach out to past students, and then maybe even go on social media and mention, hey, range day on this date. You're going to obviously have to get people to commit to it, but you can do like a Facebook event where you have people where they can opt in and say, yes, I'm attending, or no, I'm not, or maybe, and then you get an idea of how many people are going to be there, and then you can arrange for, the resources, the RSOs and such. That's something I would definitely do. I killed about 5 minutes with that, Jeff. So let's dive into the rest of this episode.
Okay, so moving on from some of that, and while I was thinking, as Bill was talking, I came up with a number of thoughts, but I'm just gonna keep those written down here on my pad, and maybe we'll get to those at the end of the episode, maybe not. We should probably also throw out there that a disclaimer: the last couple of episodes, you may or may not have heard some ice cubes jingling in a cup, or some swallows in the oft-spoken portions of the mic, and that's because we have a ritual when we're recording these podcasts, and we happen to be sipping on bourbon while we're laying down this value track. So never mind it. I'm not going to edit it out. If you hear it, it's there, and it's there because it's real. So
we both listened to one of our last podcasts and both sent each other a text saying, you can hear us drinking in the background. Maybe we need to disclose that.
Yeah, let's not chew on the ice cubes or something. But at any rate, let's dive in. Recipe for success. And perhaps the biggest part of the headline for this episode is excluding the secret sauce. And the reason that we put emphasis on that piece is all too often, even when we talk with other business owners or other successful entrepreneurs, it seems like in a lot of the mentoring or in a lot of the conversations that they get, as well as a lot of the conversations we get asked or questions we get asked, is almost like the, what's your secret? What are you doing differently that the other guys aren't doing? Or, what makes you so successful when all these other people fail? Or, insert whatever the flavor of the question is. But they're all kind of after that gem, that little tiny nugget that they feel like, or from their perspective, makes it look like you have something special. And the reality of it is that there is no such thing as the secret sauce.
It doesn't exist.
Right. And you can either chase finding the secret sauce for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years in your business, or you can come to recognize and accept that the secret sauce doesn't exist, but there is a really basic fundamental recipe that you can apply a handful of key ingredients to, and if you consistently make that recipe, then you will find success.
Well, and it's nobody's fault for buying into that there are these hacks to, go from 0 to 60. I mean, look at all the bullshit that's in everybody's feeds on social media. It's 30-year-olds or less, sometimes 20-something-year-olds telling everybody how to become a millionaire.
Right, and with a Range Rover or a Lamborghini they rented. And
yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors and snake oils and lies.
Right.
They're taking old content and rebranding it and selling it.
Yeah, so we're here to tell you that just isn't going to be, that will never be what we position in front of you. That is not a monologue that we're going to champion either. So, I mean, the hard truth of it is, whether you like it or not, the only way to success is through this particular recipe, and it can change too as far as whatever words you ended up wanting to put a label on, but the themes or the components are very much the same. So one of the big ones, and especially in today's marketplace, as Bill was just alluding to, there's so much BS out there, and so much hype, and so much just complete smoke and mirrors and dishonest tactics, the get rich quick schemes, that the first ingredient, bullet number 1 I had, was honesty. And this really goes at its core fundamentally. This is going to carry through all of the other bullet points we have. But at the end of the day, one nice thing about talking in this community and in this space, by and large, the people that we interact with in the firearms space that themselves seem to at least cling to some of the old adages and old tenets and moral codes that seem to otherwise be dead in the Western society or here in America. And as sad as that is, and as unfortunate as it is outside of the firearms community, the upside is we have a lot of like folks around us. And at the end of the day, honesty can come across in a lot of different ways. One great example that I learned a hard lesson with a long time ago, and that I've learned is probably the most powerful thing you can do in a one-on-one conversation or a sales dynamic or any time where someone is seeking knowledge or information from you because you are the professor, if you want to call it that, or the person that they see in a leadership role. If you don't know the answer to a question, then say you don't know the answer to that question. I don't know, but don't leave it there.
You're going to lose credibility instantly, because in a lot of courses, there's people out there that have way more experience than you in certain things that are guns. I mean, we took a course once, Jeff, where somebody asked a question about I don't know, I think it was a revolver or something like that, and this instructor clearly didn't know much about running a revolver, but tried to bullshit his way through the answer, and at that point he lost credibility.
Right.
So just say it. Just say, you know what, guys, I'm not much of a revolver guy. I'm more of a modern handgun user. So ask the students, hey, does anybody out here have any experience with this? Can you help me out?
Right. Yeah, that and the follow-up piece to the I don't know is don't ever leave it there. Show them that you're willing to do whatever it takes and put your hard work hat on and say, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out. But then because you've committed to finding out, you better go find out. And it may not be, that minute. It may not be during the next break. It might be a couple of days or a couple weeks down the line. But make sure that you follow up and close that loop with that person, because as soon as you do, in that moment is where they will be hooked and committed to you, because that's not what people are used to in today's society anymore. I mean, people suck in general, and that's just the way that it is, especially in business. So
but that's what makes it so easy also. I mean, that's one thing that I love about being in the area or in the field that we're in is there's so much bullshit out there, and people in our community, they're skeptical in general. It seems like they're a little bit more reserved out the gate than most people. And so once you just talk to them and they realize that you're just being a genuine person and just, shooting the shit with them and not necessarily looking for the quick sale, you're kind of letting them lead their own way to, getting their money. They appreciate it, and they resonate with your approach, because it is not the traditional norm anymore. I mean, if you look at anything in the big box stores that you go to, I mean, walk into a Best Buy and you get hounded,
right?
Or a lot of stores, I mean, I think originally when these stores encouraged their employees to do that, it was to be helpful, but then it's been warped into milk that individual. You're cash cattle, and
yeah, it's all about volume and average cart price, essentially. So that's point number one in a nutshell, and we could really beat that up or splice it a number of different ways. But the important piece is to know that there is not only is there no harm in being honest and transparent, but there's actually a significant amount of power in that for a long-term relationship with that individual, which goes a long way for a referral standpoint too. I had heard one statistic somewhere where it was like if someone had a bad experience, they're likely to tell 20 people, but if someone had a good experience with someone or something, a product or a service, they're only likely to tell at least 5 people. So, with those odds against you from the get-go, you're going to have to work your ass off to be delivering wow service to begin with, because you want those referrals and the word of mouth, and honesty is a huge way to do it. And to hit home the point that Bill brought up on that too, you could be an expert in your own right, and you could be the smartest person in the room on 98% of the criteria that you're going to cover in that course, but that's all the more reason and all the more importance to ensure that when someone asks that question in that 2% zone, that you don't bullshit it. There's absolutely no shame, there's no harm in not having the answer. But as long as you're willing to go find the answer and then get back to them, that's all you can ask for, and that's more than anyone would expect. So moving on to point number 2, the second ingredient in success is value, but not to you as the business owner. You need to be ensuring that what you're doing is putting forth and creating value for your consumer. whatever that happens to be. Now, in this case, and in this niche that we're talking about with firearms instruction, then value would be, one, it's in the perception of your student and in your customers, but you need to be creating kind of a dovetail of that would be experiences, because yes, you're in the service business, but you're also in a experiences business. People in today's society specifically would much rather be buying experiences than things. That's why things like travel and Airbnb and all that crap is skyrocketing and taking off, because people are shopping for the experience and willing to dump their money on the experience, not for the shiny widget to, hang on their wall or put in their desk.
Well, and I honestly think that's why the firearms market as a whole has experienced such a surge. I know that a lot of people like to give it credit to, gun grabbers, and that might be a portion of it, but there's also a reason that there's a surge in the business boom for instructors, and I think it's that the majority of people are out in the work world just as a drone slaving away every day, and they like to have a weekend adventure. They're weekend warriors, and to get out on the line and fire some guns and do some cool shit, that makes them feel good. So, they're buying memories with that. They're not only buying memories, but they're buying a skill set. That's value.
Right. Well, and let's face it too. Granted, there's probably a particular age cutoff that would shape this next comment I'm about to make, but we are at the age, and we probably fit into both. Bill and I, we straddle both sides of it, but people that are older that might be specifically looking to hone their craft and their ability and their skill or their discipline on a particular thing, that only accounts for, the top end portion of shooters. But the other individuals that are, let's just call it 35 and younger, maybe, these are the guys and gals that grew up with video games. And the video games had all of the cool shit in it as far as the firearms went. And, whether it was the Call of Duties or Modern Warfares or, whatever, insert the names here, where they got to play with the neat toys on screen, a lot of those folks are coming of the age to where, they have the disposable income to kind of go do that in real life. Now, while most of us instructors absolutely hate that, because it seems like we end up having to retrain just terrible habits, and tell people that, well, the list goes on. You know exactly what I'm going to talk about. But the fact of the matter, or the point I'm trying to make, is that those individuals, what they're chasing is the experience of doing for real in real life what they, kind of grew up doing in a virtual world or in a virtual reality piece. And so focusing and understanding on that piece alone from a value perspective, to maybe challenge you guys, is think of ways that you can either restructure your curriculum or change up the way that you talk about, maybe it's the range time versus the classroom piece, but how can you adapt more interaction and more participation and more experience throughout the entire course process with you. And I assure you that not only will those courses be more entertaining for both you and the students, but your referrals will increase significantly, and more asses in seats means more money.
Well, and I was thinking about stuff while you were talking, but it goes right along with what you're saying. I never really thought of it that way before. We don't have a script for this show, so oftentimes it leads to side notes, but right along with what Jeff was saying, the video game era kids are now old enough to buy guns. I can't tell you how many times I've fielded a phone call for someone wanting an HK Mark 23 set up just like the Navy SEALs carried it. They all want to be like this video game character. And I tell them, yeah, I can get you the gun, but, the suppressor and especially the light, combo, they don't make that light anymore. And B, there's better shit on the market now. I mean, it's
for less dollars.
Yeah, it's an okay suppressor. Now there's many more options out there than there were in those days, and they're better. And then also that the light combo that it has on it is not impressive to today's standard. I mean, an X300U is badass compared to, what those guns were equipped with, but they are fixed. No, I need this one because this character had one and it was cool. I grew up playing with it.
It may be the safe queen or the trophy piece, but I need to have it regardless, just because I need to take my picture with it.
So that's a reality, folks. Just as a side note. Yeah, my bad.
Nope, that's fine. And, there's no sense. You can always, and we deal with it quite a bit, as Bill was saying, we can always get people what they want. But in the end, we try to make sure that we create an experience, even if that's a shopping experience with us, where we leave an opportunity for additional value and getting them a different solution on top of whatever it was they were coming for. So, that's probably it for the value piece. I mean, I could give many more examples, but to try to stay within the not so long-winded time frame, I'll move on to point number 3. So the third point, the third ingredient in the recipe for success is failure. Now, that may seem odd to you unless you've listened to any of our prior episodes, but failure is a key component into success.
Say it.
In fact, it's Bill wants me to say it, but I gotta wait. Failure is a requirement, nonetheless, for success. And the funny thing about it is, failure really is what ultimately ends up separating those who are successful from those who give up and say, "F this, I'm out." You've got to fail fast and you've got to fail forward.
Yes.
And you have to do that repeatedly. Okay, so. There's this thing, and that's an entire other episode. At any rate, there is a thing called an entrepreneurial personality type, which is fascinating, and we should probably do a podcast on that. But
that's a good idea.
At any rate,
I'll write that down.
The entrepreneurial mindset would be one of those individuals who is a what is even the right word? A relentless problem solver is probably one good way to put it in my own terms. And what I mean by that is when we are faced with problems, we don't see them as problems. We see them as opportunities. Yeah, they can be a pain in the ass, and yeah, they can really piss you off, and yeah, they can go on for days, and they can stress you out, and they can really put you through a ringer and wear you down. But at the end of the day, you never give up. You never see it as a dead end.
A lot of entrepreneurs, when the shit hits the fan, that's when a lot of people that succeed in the industry, I mean, you're almost like a serial killer. It's like when that shit hits the fan, instead of your adrenaline and your heart rate, going through the roof, it actually slows down. And you become cold and calculated, and you see it as opportunity. It's like, sometimes it's easy to get bored. If doing the same stuff day in and day out. So struggles and challenges, that's how you get better. I mean, that's really what separates, like Jeff said, the winners from the losers.
I'm not taking a leak. That is topping off a new glass.
But I mean, those challenges and obstacles are, a new excitement. I mean, it's what takes you to the next level of your game. It makes you an apex predator in the market. So successful people in the business industry, they thrive on that. And, I'm not saying that I'm a big success or anything like that, but I kind of like it when things get tough, because it's new, it's fresh, and it gives us a chance to realize, shit, we had a big flaw over here. We didn't see this coming. We need to shore up our defenses on this side. Take that and use it to make you better.
Yeah, completely agree. The piece about that failure component is, the more you fail, the more you learn, and the faster you fail, or the just more often, more frequently that you fail, the more you're learning at such an accelerated pace, an accelerated rate, that that's where the fun and the joy in this whole thing is. I mean, you've got to start looking at your failures as milestones in your journey, in your process to success, because there's no such thing as a destination. I don't care. You ask the most successful business person, because the other component of entrepreneurs is they don't see an end, and that in a positive way. There's no end, because as soon as you get to where you thought you'd never get to, you're already looking 100 miles down the road at the next
you're
thing.
Always on the horizons.
Yeah, it just never stops. And maybe to kind of hop off of point 3 and segue into to point 4, which is persistence. You've got to start thinking about this as, think of it maybe as a track race for hurdles. And, all those hurdle races have like 5 or 6 contenders side by side running around the thing. And if you just visualize those failures as those individual hurdles around the track, it only takes 1, 2, 3, 10, 20 of them to realize that then at the end of the race, there may only be one person that finished, because each one of those hurdles, and it may not have been the same one, took out one of those competitors along the way. And you just have to outlast the competition. You have to get your ass up and keep on running. Give yourself time to catch your breath, but never stop focusing on moving forward. And then the other piece on that I wanted to hit with regards to persistence is we're really, really bad, we being the entrepreneurial mindseted folks, we're really, really bad at looking backwards from a perspective standpoint of success. And it's going to be hard to explain, but we're constantly looking forward at everything else we need to accomplish. We very rarely look backwards and look at all of the accomplishments that we have already made. I can
add to that. My analogy for that is it's like pulling rear security. If you're out on a patrol, if you're to think of this from a tactical or I have a military background, so I think of it as always be pulling security, 360 security, and when you're out on a patrol, you've got somebody that's, watching your back. You're always looking backwards, covering your tracks, making sure that the enemy's not creeping up on you. So even in the business world, you've got to make sure you're doing that. You got to make sure that you're staying out in front and nobody's going to sneak up behind you and ambush you.
I was just a video game kid, so I wasn't as cool as Bill to do that in real life, but
that's true.
So persistence, guys. You got to find joy in the process. You have to embrace it for what it is. You have to recognize that what you're getting into is a lifelong journey of pains in the ass and obstacles and challenges and setbacks. And if you don't embrace it fast and recognize that failure is okay and setbacks are a part of life and learn from them and move forward, then it's going to be a long and painful and treacherous road for you if you can't find the joy in just going through that process. And that was really it. The main 4 ingredients as far as the recipe for success goes.
I kind of sum it up as quit thinking of yourself or what you're offering as a product and start thinking of it as a brand. And when we sat down and decided what this podcast was going to be, we both, here's how we do it. We have legal sheets in front of us and Sharpies, and we take some notes on the given topic that we agree on. And the big thing that I think most people, instructors in this environment, they think of themselves as a product-based business and not a lifestyle brand. So when I say a lifestyle brand, imagine Under Armour in the hunting field. They come to mind, and Under Armour is not selling you their products. If you look at any of their advertising, the people they sponsor, their social media, they are a lifestyle brand. They are selling you on that hunt. You look at their ads and their Instagram and their different marketing material. You're on that hunt with them. It's very impressive, and that is why they have dominated. They went from not even being in that space to they are one of the major players, and they did that because they quit thinking about the product. They already knew they had a good product. So once you know you have a good product, that's when you start adapting your material to getting people to buy into the brand. And if you can get people to identify with you, that is how you get customers for life. So don't just go to or schedule a course, have people sit down in your classroom and go over the material. Sell them on the reason why you're doing this. Teach them about the brand. You want them to think about this, with purpose. Teach them how to apply it in their everyday life and say, hey, look, we build on these courses. You're in this course now, but the next level builds further on this, and here's why we do that. And give them examples, and then circle back with them, re-engage them, in between courses or after a course, and feed them material that builds on what you had just went over, and get them to get bit by the bug, and then you've got them.
Yeah. As he was talking through that, as Bill was, using the identity concept, an old tried and true symbol of, how that works best even is the symbolism of a flag, right? The symbolism of what that flag stands for and the identity that you self-identify with, or a suit of armor in particular, or the color of your banner. All the way back, if you do stick through the military history side of things, I think all the way back even to the medieval times, you had the King's Guard, right?
You got your crest.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that they believed in wholeheartedly, and a cause in which they were willing to die for. Now, we're not advocating that you're going to build a cult, but you better start thinking like you are, because that's the type of stuff that builds lifelong constituents, if you want to call it that.
It's definitely true. A lot of business gurus have studied cults.
I mean, if you go straight back to the Under Armour piece, right? So they've gone from just being a logo on a shirt or socks or whatever to turning it into a lifestyle brand.
Yeah, you fly under that banner.
Yeah, people put on their freaking Under Armour clothes with that logo because they're self-identifying and identifying with the cause and the lifestyle and the meaning that their marketing department's putting out there. They have a choice every morning when they're in their closet. Do I put on this shirt or that shirt? And they always grab the Under Armour shirt because they're self-identifying that day, making the conscious or subconscious decision to put that suit of armor on and go out in the world and do their thing.
You got people who are representing for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no reason that the small businessmen and women that's listening here today can't do the exact same thing by just approaching it a little bit different, leading people instead of instructing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the simplest way to do that in today's society is get a freaking t-shirt with your logo on it, or a polo with your logo on it. That can be the starting point for those students and those folks to self-identify with your brand and your cause and your future, your vision. And you got to start thinking like that. Essentially you're the CEO of your business and of your culture that you're building, and your culture can extend out to your students because they're identifying with you and they're doing business with you, and you've got to paint that vision for them and mean something, be purposeful. And that's the end of my rant.
Well, it's no different than what we've done. I mean, what are we? I like to think of, what is that movie? Oh, the movie Taken.
Yeah.
We're just gun guys with some very special sets of skills.
Right, very particular set of skills.
Yeah, skills that make us dangerous in this market because nobody else has taken this, this turn. They haven't approached it from this way. We found a better way, in my opinion, to promote the Second Amendment than through just sales. It's through championing a group of people and setting them up for success. That's really the bottom line of our whole purpose, is to set people up for success, because in the end it benefits all of our goals, and that's to promote the longevity of the Second Amendment.
Completely agree.
America.
All right, guys, that was it. The recipe for success, excluding the secret sauce. If I leave you with one parting thought, it's to never again think about or chase the secret sauce. It doesn't exist. But there is a tried and true recipe for success, and all it takes is consistency and perseverance, and you will pull through. So keep on trucking. Thank you for listening. We still have our contest going on, so get out there, review the podcast. If you're listening to this 10 years from now and you're just picking up on this episode, still get out there on iTunes and give us a review if you found any of this valuable.
Our stuff's on YouTube now.
Oh, yeah. We did. All of our previous episodes are posted on YouTube. That's an easier medium for people to consume it through than podcasting. So we push it out to a number of different places. It's also posted then on our Facebook pages whenever the episodes drop too. So if podcasting isn't your thing, but you're here listening to it, then you can catch us on those other areas, and you can always check us out on our website too.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. To find out more, you can find us on Facebook at Flashbang Creative, or you can visit us on our website at flashbangcreative.us.